And just a quick introduction on Mike. Mike is a CEO and a founder of Brands Meet Creators, short for BMC, which is a TikTok shop affiliate marketing platform that connects brands with a network of over 70,000 creators. BMC offers managed campaign services for brands and is currently building a creator facing mobile app and an AI powered intelligence tool, which I'm really excited to talk about today. Um, BMC is BMC is Mike's first real business, but it came after dozens of side hustles and failed attempts across the creator economy and digital marketing space. Mike is a location independent entrepreneur who splits his time between Colombia and Costa Rica and brings a grounded perspective on what it actually takes to build something that sticks after years of figuring out what doesn't. Wow, what a freaking bio, man. Mike, welcome to the show.
I appreciate that intro. Excited to be here.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Mike, if you don't mind taking us back a little bit, before we talk business, before we talk any hustle, before we talk any sort of TikTok strategies, who is Mike? Where do you come from? And what is your story?
Oh, great question. So I was born in Philadelphia, born and raised there. We kind of hopped around a little bit as a family. Lived Central America for a year. Lived in California for a little bit. Um, Kind of had the typical upbringing, went to school, went to college. I was a athlete, captain of the lacrosse team, got really good grades. Went to school, studied math and economics, and thought that I wanted to work for a tech company coming out of school. Didn't actually really know what I wanted to do, but I was smart, kind of liked math. I was very logical, kind of like an engineering brain. So I decided, okay, I'll be a math major because that keeps the most doors open for me. Um, After school, ended up working in New York City. Worked for like a marketing, analytics, and consulting company. Then I worked for a separate tech company. Was on a data science team, and that's when I realized I I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I don't want to work a corporate job my whole life, and yeah, I just can't see myself sitting in an office in New York City for the rest of my life. So that's a little background on myself.
Was it in your family ever, in your culture of entrepreneurship? Was that ever a path for you and your family, or was that something that you started?
My dad was always very entrepreneurial. He kind of like,
Okay.
I don't know, hybrid between entrepreneur and working different jobs. If he did work something, it was typically a small company where he's almost like an entrepreneur. So I would say I probably got some of that from him growing up. Um, but then it was something that I realized after college pretty quickly. I would say 3 to 6 months into that first job in New York, I was just looked around at the people that were there, and I was like, that's not where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, um, and that's where I really got into this like side hustle phase of my life, where it was like, okay, I kind of like worked my whole life to get to this point where it's like study, get good grades, get a good job, and like that's the goal, and then you get there and then I'm like, wow, like was I just doing all of this to get here and this is actually not even what I want. And then it was going through the phase of like almost unwinding that and figuring out, okay, what is like, where do I actually want to go, and how do I almost like escape this like reality that I built for myself.
Hmm. A lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship mindset, a lot of people have this itch, right? They have this want to be doing something bigger, better, and a lot of them even I remember when I was going through my corporate world job, I was like, man, there's something bigger out there for me, and I want to be my own boss. I want to be my own entrepreneur. What was there something that specifically happened that made you actually made that? I mean, having a job in New York, that's like a dream of almost um, every guy that studies math, finance. I mean, you said you're a math whiz and tech. Having a job in New York is big deal. What made you? Was there something that happened that made you say, you know what, screw this, I'm going to go on my own? and and how did you get past of the this thing holding you down of what if it doesn't work
Hmm.
out?
Yeah. There were, I don't think there was one particular moment, and there was early on, there was never this like huge vision, like I want to build something big, I want to do something amazing. It was more, I want to figure out how to make between 5 and 10 grand a month for myself, and kind of like own my own time and not have to sit in an office and be, tied to a certain job. I do remember, some specific moments where it's like, I'm leaving the office maybe midnight, 1 a.m. Didn't happen every day, but it was like quite common working, New York City hours and taking a taxi home, and I'm like half asleep, but my brain is just like it's just doing like Excel functions because like that's what I've just done for the last 12 hours, the past like 5 days in a row. And then I was like, oh my God, I gotta change something. Like I can't just be doing this the rest of my life, where I'm just like dozing off in the back of a taxi and my brain is like just like seeing Excel tables, there wasn't like one specific moment, but it was just kind of like that piling up, months after months.
It's crazy, man. Excel worksheets at 1 in the morning.
Yeah, I was doing a
First of all,
lot
leaving
of.
the office at 1 in the morning. Really?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
normal?
It wasn't like super common. That wasn't like a daily thing, but it happened, quite a bit when there's certain deadlines. We got a presentation the next day. We got something that has to get done. It's just like, you're there getting it finished.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard about the New York hustle culture. I've heard about like, how crazy it could get, but wow. I cannot imagine.
I
Okay, so how
I
long did you
I had
actually work the corporate?
so
Uh-huh.
I had real quick. I was living with roommates at the time, and I actually thought I had it good. My one roommate he was a paralegal, and he had it way worse than me. With like the hours, there were multiple instances where I'm getting up early to go to the gym, before work. Maybe I'm leaving 5:30 a.m., something like that, and I'm literally running into him. He's coming back from work, and I'm going in. That had happened multiple times, and that's I was like, oh, I got it good. Maybe I'm in the office till midnight, like just I don't know, a couple times a month, like rarely. Um, but yeah, there can be some pretty crazy, hours in New York.
Insane. How long did you actually work there?
So I had two separate jobs. The first one, I want to say about a year and a half. They were both probably around a year and a half. So I graduated in 2017 and immediately got a job in New York, moved there, and I worked. Yeah, I think it was about a year and a half, for each one, and then I ultimately quit the second job and made the jump. This was during COVID. I want to say June, July, August timeframe of 2020.
One of my really good friends told me one time that COVID made a lot of freaking millionaires. And I'm just glad to be one of them.
Yep.
So I always say that quote. I'm like, I mean, I think there's so much transformation that COVID made. So that was my next question is, okay, so was it this gradual transition from being corporate and then going into these side hustles, which we'll talk about in just a minute, because I want to hear about all those side hustles that you mentioned in your bio. Was it gradually trying something while you had the corporate job, or did you actually just quit cold turkey and said I'm all in on this entrepreneurship thing?
It was gradual. So while I was in New York, I would say
Uh-huh.
yeah, maybe 6 months after starting the first job, I knew I was like, I gotta start figuring out, a way out of here. That's when I started doing some of these side hustles, and I mean, even initially, they weren't even side hustles, but it was just like exploring an alternate path, and each one would maybe last, I don't know, 2, 3 months, and it just was failure after failure after failure. But in reality, you're learning, you're picking up a certain skill. It doesn't feel like that at the time. It feels like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Why can't I figure this thing out? So it was just constant trying stuff out in my free time, figuring out how can I earn $1 on the internet working for myself. And then during COVID, COVID hit 2020. March or so, and New York City was like the worst place you could be in the world, basically. All my roommates had moved out. I decided to move out as well and just move back to my mom's house, like suburbs of Philadelphia. The whole company was completely remote at that time, so it was, you know, work from wherever. All my roommates had left. I was like, cool, I'm gonna go move back in my mom's. And at the time, one of these side hustles was actually catching on a little bit for me, like one of the first times where there was more money coming in than money was going out. Um, and so yeah, it was a gradual process to get there, but if there was ever a moment where I'm like, all right, let's go for it. COVID was kind of the right shake up. I was in a new environment as well. Um, I was saving a lot of money too because stop paying New York rent, stop paying New York everything. I'm living back at home with my mom. So I got a little bit more money in the bank. A little bit of money's coming in for this. And I was like, all right, well, it's now or never. Let's go for it.
That's awesome. I love how you led in your bio. Like a lot of people would just leave that out, right? Dozens of side hustles that didn't work out, and BMC being your first real business, which we'll jump into BMC in just a minute. But can we talk about maybe two to three, or some examples of those side hustles that didn't work, but it really freaking hurt you? Like we're like, fuck, man, this was painful. Can you bring up a couple examples that you can go over?
Yeah. First off, there were so many, and most of them they don't even count to even get the name as side hustle because it was more like an idea, and I'm gonna spend 3 weeks on this idea, and like it never even gets launched, and it's like, oh no, let's do a different idea. So there were even more of those, um, but there were a handful that had like actually some traction. So I'll talk through maybe a few that there was actually like real revenue involved. We actually had product stuff was selling. The first one was something I did with my roommates at the time. It was one where we all just kind of jumped in and we're like, whatever, let's try this. It was like a print on demand t-shirt company, right? I don't know. I feel like a lot of people probably go through some type of like clothing brand and it typically never works out, but you learn a bunch. So we were making these print on demand t-shirts. They were like funny shirts that involved like athletes and then kind of like almost like cartoon character type things. Um, we probably sold several $1,000s worth of those. I really got to learn how to market things on Instagram. We created like Instagram theme pages. We were growing those. Learned how to do like shout outs with influencers and just even like what that meant. Paying someone else to post and promote something for you, sending traffic to different pages. I mean, that was never going to work out in the long run, really. I don't know, just like a print on demand t-shirt business is not the not the ultimate path I wanted to go down, but also quite difficult when you're like living with roommates and also trying to grow a business together and not everyone's on the same page. So that ultimately we just kind of shut it down. We were also going to run into like trademark infringement. It was one of those where it's not that much planning was involved, and it was just like let's just run this direction, try things out. But like all of these side hustles, ended up learning a bunch. Like had no idea what even like Instagram influencers and like paying people for shout outs and a story post and what like influencers they had like rates for what they charge. I didn't didn't really even know that world existed. Same thing with like setting up a Shopify store, print on demand. It was just learning how to like even just accepting payments. Learned a ton.
Did any of those side hustles, did you lose any money, like a significant amount of money or time or relationships? Was there a failure that happened during those side hustles where maybe you were like, shit, maybe this is not for me. Maybe this
Um,
entrepreneurship path is not for me.
there was never really a moment like that where it was like, oh man, I lost a lot of money on this. I never got into one where it was like we had to put up a massive investment to do something. Fortunately, I would say it was more of a slow grind that made me question things where it's like, man, I've been doing this for 2.5 years, like trying to figure something out and like nothing still. Like I'm still here. I'm still working this job. Um, so there was never like a, oh man, I made a terrible mistake. Let me just like question all my decisions. And it was a bit more of like, what's going on? Like, why is this taking me forever? Why can I not figure this out?
And what kept you from going back to corporate world, even if you were not able to figure this out for so many
Um,
businesses?
well, the thing was like I was just still in the corporate world the whole time. So it wasn't like I left and then I was trying to figure it out. It was like I was doing them parallel. So I still, you know, the those 2.5 years where I'm trying things, I'm still working in the corporate role. And then I think COVID really was the shake up that I needed. It's just new environment. You know, you start to think a little bit differently. Um, had a little bit more space and time as well. Right now, working from home, you can kind of you get away with kind of not working as much and putting more focus on the side hustles. Um, but yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, well, you know, I'm just gonna keep giving it a go. And I thought it was like, oh man, it's the business models that's wrong. You know, it's like I gotta just find the new thing that works.
That's awesome, and that's one of those big secrets that a lot of people think that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to quit your day job. Do not quit your day job. I kept my day job for the first 2 years before I called it quits. When it actually was working 2 years of actual business, making money, not only just a little bit of money, but actually making money, and just like you said, saving. So for sure, 100%. That's a big one that I hear a lot of our
Hmm.
entrepreneurs don't really talk about until you ask them. Is that it doesn't mean you have to quit your day job. So that's awesome.
Yep.
I love that. And next question that I want to ask you is that there is a LinkedIn post out there that talks about how you were involved in a business that was doing around $500,000 a month, so $500,000 a month, that completely fell apart. What actually happened, and what did it actually feel like? Like, tell me
Yeah.
about that. That's insane. Half a million
Yeah.
bucks a month, y'all. Not a year, a month. Talk to me.
Yeah, this was okay, so great transition because this is ultimately the like vehicle that allowed me to quit my job in New York. So during COVID, the side hustle that I was doing at the time was I was running Facebook ads for affiliate products. And most of them were like, digital products, like a course, info product, something like that. Basically, the name of the game is, hey, there's this program, there's a course, whatever, and it costs $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000, and I can run ads to those, and for every sale that I make, get a commission. Maybe it's $1,000 commission. So now the name of the game is, can I run ads to this thing, and if I get $1,000 commission on it, can I get a cost per acquisition of less than 1,000, and I just make the delta on the two, and that was the game. And what was nice about that is I didn't really have to have like a full business, right? You don't need like the ops, you don't need like all the things. It's just like you're playing a game here. I'm running Facebook ads, and it's like, can I be good at basically marketing? That was the only thing you had to focus on with the affiliate lens, right? Because someone else has the business, they have the product, they have the funnel, they have the sales team, all that stuff. And so now it's a marketing game that I'm playing here. Um, and so that started working for me in during COVID, and it was one of these first side hustles where it's like, oh, okay, more money is coming in than is going out, and it got to a point where I was probably spending 20 to 30 grand a month on Facebook ads, and like just bringing back in like maybe 30 to 45 grand. So it wasn't like a crazy like margin or anything, but it's like, okay, cool. If I'm spending $1,000 a day and I'm bringing back like 1,400 a day, and like that's it. I don't have any costs or anything involved. Like that's the game that I'm playing with this. Um, so that's what I was doing during COVID. Enough money to quit the job, and then ultimately the way I got into that whole world was I decided to like take a program, right? There's a ton of these online education programs, courses, communities, um, way more popular now than they were back in, 2019, 2020. And essentially, that this is what they were showing in there. It's like, okay, how can you be like a digital marketer? And then, your first step is you don't need to build your own business, but you can just use that skill for selling affiliate products and, try to make this delta. So I took their program and started applying it, and it was working. And, I kind of became one of the like top students in the program, right? I was like a big success story, because it's like, cool, like I did it, it worked, and I was able to quit my job, able to like afford my lifestyle. I moved down to Mexico, um, and yeah, ultimately they asked me to, slowly become like more and more a part of the company, so I was helping them, manage the community a little bit, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm helping out with some coaching calls here and there. um, and long story short, we can get into it more, but I basically watched this whole company go. Oh, I think I lost Anton here.
We're back. I don't know what happened, man. I'm sorry about that. Let me go. We're still live. Don't worry. We're gonna cut that out. So just go
Cool.
back to. I apologize. I don't know what happened
Oh, good.
on my end, but the editors are gonna edit that out. So go back to. I moved to Mexico, and I was helping that company, and that's where it all dropped.
Okay, so I moved to Mexico, and then I was slowly helping out the company with more and more, right? I was like one of their top like success stories, slowly helping out with like community management a little bit. Next thing you know, I'm helping out with like different coaching calls, Q&As, kind of showing people exactly how I'm doing everything. Um, Eventually got to the point where I'm running a lot of like the fulfillment calls for them, doing a lot of coaching calls. And yeah, long story short, we can dive into it more. But I watched them start as like a pretty small company and scale it up to around a $500,000 a month. And then ultimately just watched the whole thing kind of fall apart and collapse on the back end, to where the company didn't even exist, a year or so later.
What happened? How does that work? How does that even happen? You're making
Yeah.
$500,000 a month, and then you collapse. What happened?
Yeah, so I think it was actually a great learning point for me just to be able to see that, right? Because coming from where I was in the corporate role, you don't really know how a lot of these like startups operate, startups either in like the info space, agency space. So just getting to see like the back end of like what this looked like was super helpful. Um, I think there were a couple reasons why the whole thing ended up falling apart. First one is there's no recurring revenue in the business. It's a lot of just like one-time purchases, all just based on Facebook ads and just like one channel. And when that one channel doesn't really start to work that well, you can see it, right? So if all your leads are coming from Meta and Meta's not working, cool. You're definitely going to see a slowdown. Uh, but the bigger thing is that the actual mechanisms that were working previously weren't working anymore for the people that were in the community, right? So what I was doing in 2020, running meta ads to these affiliate offers and like making the delta, like that strategy just started to get harder and harder, right? Every year meta costs are going up, every year it gets harder. And so now, as you know, if you're an affiliate, you're slowly getting squeezed. And so just like the ability to be profitable doing that got harder and harder and harder. And so like as people start getting less and less results, it just gets harder to really scale something out, right? And so to me, the biggest takeaway was like you really got to focus on the client results, because that's like the flywheel that feeds everything, right? If you have an agency and you're constantly getting really really good results for your clients, then you market the good results and people are happy, they stay with you longer. But if it's the opposite and like no one's getting results, instead of that like upward flywheel, it's like a downward spiral where it's like no one's getting results, so you don't have like any good results to go market, and like the whole team's less motivated, and the morale is low, and it just creates more of like a downward spiral. And so yeah, those were kind of the two big things that happened. Is like the product that was being sold just kind of stopped getting results for people, and then also there's no like recurring revenue on top of it. It was all being sold through one channel, and that one channel is becoming more and more difficult. So it was like a very big spike up, and then just kind of a crumble on the way down.
Wow. And this is you working for someone else. This is
Correct.
you. Wow.
Correct. So I was
Okay.
had no equity in the company. I was, like a contractor, just kind of helping out with fulfillment and things. And so in late 2020, maybe early 2021, was when I made the decision. This was this was like another huge jumping off point for me. There was one which was the jumping off point, leaving New York and kind of going doing my own thing. But honestly, this jumping off point felt even bigger because now I literally had no plans, no business, no nothing. It was like, well, I don't see a future here at this company. I don't have like any equity, anything long term, and the ship's kind of sinking. What am I doing over here? I got to go figure this out. Now I'm in Mexico, and it's like, well, all right, now it's like really time. Now it's like you kind of got a little taste. You weren't really an entrepreneur, but you were like entrepreneurial. And now it's like, all right, it's time to play ball, time to go figure it out. So I had a little bit of cash saved, not a ton. I had a little bit of crypto here and there. Expenses were relatively low. I'm living in Mexico, and this was where it's like, all right, well, sink or swim. Let's go figure it out.
And this is where you started. Is this how BMC started, or
Yes, this is
was
when
this a
brand
transition for you to actually go into BMC?
exactly. This is when
Wow.
Brands Meet Creators was started. Um, so the first thing I did, I mean, I took about a week where I was like, wow, okay, I got to figure something out. Like, what am I gonna do? I literally have no clue. It was like it was a decision that I actually didn't know I was gonna make. It was one day I'm with my best friend, and we go to like our favorite place in the world. We sit on this dock that's like right on the water, and yeah, we just had like a long session there and came out of that like, okay, wow, I have a realization that I need to quit this other role, and I got to just go figure it out. So I literally have no direction, no idea what I'm gonna do. So the first week was just figuring out like what is the direction, where am I going to go with this, how am I going to make money. So I kind of just assessed like, all right, what are my skills, and the biggest one was I can run Facebook ads. I've been doing it for a year. I'm pretty good at it. I'm a really good copywriter.
No clue what's going on. This never happened.
All good.
Once I need it, it happens. I don't
All
know.
good.
I
i've
try
had
to reconnect again, so it's okay.
i've
We'll
had
edit
i've
that.
had the wi-fi issues plenty of times. All right,
So
where
you
was
were
I?
you were you were good at running Facebook ads.
Yeah, so assessed my skill set. Okay, I'm good at running Facebook ads, right? That's like my primary skill that I have. So what am I going to do? Okay, well, let's start like a Facebook ads agency. And so I asked myself, all right, well, I gotta start getting clients. Let's figure out some ways to get clients. And I thought, okay, maybe I just run Facebook ads for myself to get clients. But then I was like, well, I don't really have much money right now, and that's like a pretty big like risk to go about doing that. I don't have like a ton of just test budget to run. So let's get on social media and let's start making content to get clients. I'm just gonna start putting out value. So I get on TikTok. TikTok was the main platform that I decided to use, and I just start making videos. And it's just all marketing tips, basically. Here's how to do this on Facebook ads. Here's how to do this. Here's the marketing tip. Um, and so I just start growing on TikTok, and slowly but surely, some clients started to trickle in, and it was at the point where I would basically do anything. I'm like a glorified freelancer. Just start having conversations, and I was running YouTube ads for people. I was doing Facebook ads for people. I would help set up funnels. I would do whatever. I'm trying to just make a buck here and there. And so I start growing my personal brand on TikTok, all about marketing. And ultimately, what I realized is more people started to reach out to me asking about TikTok in particular than they were Facebook ads. Because at the time, TikTok is like the new hot thing, right? It's 2021. There's a lot of interest in TikTok, and 2021, everybody and their brother had a Facebook ads agency, so it wasn't really like a unique thing. You could kind of get anybody to run the Facebook ads for you. Um, so yeah, more and more people were reaching out to me specifically about TikTok, and I kind of took that as a bit of a sign. And at the time too, like I'm doing whatever I can do to make some money. So if someone was like, "Hey, I need you to babysit my kids," like I would babysit their kids. So if people are asking about TikTok, cool, I'll help you out with TikTok. Um, and so yeah, people were asking me more and more about it, and I forget exactly, what the first client was, or how it came up. But ultimately, there were more like e-commerce brands. They wanted help on TikTok. And so I started working with a few of them, and maybe doing like a little bit of consulting here and there, giving them strategy. But ultimately, what these companies wanted was, I just want someone to just run my TikTok for me, right? Like take our products and just make like one, two, three videos a day and just help us grow on TikTok. And I was like, cool, I'll make it happen. I'll figure out how to do it. And this is really where Brands Meet Creators was born. Because in order to help someone on TikTok, most of these guys, these founders, they don't want to go make the videos themselves, especially if they're selling, some type of like physical product. So one of the early steps in that process is not only like strategy, making good content, but it's finding the person that's going to do that. So I would have this brand come on board, and one of the first steps is like, all right, we're gonna go find you someone to make that content for you. Then I would make a post on my TikTok. I'd be like, hey, this like, whatever brand, they're looking for a creator that's going to be like the face of their brand and make one, two, three TikToks a day. They'll pay you a couple $1,000 a month. And so that slowly started happening more and more. Some of these deals were structured like a bit of cash for the content creator, and also some type of like affiliate as well. But it got to the point where I started to build this audience of like both sides, right? Like the content creator side and the brand side of the business. So every time a brand would come to me, we'd figure out what type of creator they want. I'd make a post. I'd be like, hey, I'm looking for uh, mom content creators. You need like kids that are under the age of 6 because it's this like parenting product, whatever. Just like comment below if you would be interested in this. I go DM them. I do some interviews. I'd then like place them with the company, help run some strategy there. And that was like the initial days of Brands Meet Creators. So it went from me just putting out marketing content to realizing actually like people aren't really asking me about Facebook ads that much. Like more people are asking me about TikTok. And then I took the first couple deals, and then I started talking about it more and more. And then it was like, whoa, this is way easier. Like people are actually interested in this. Where the Facebook thing, it felt like felt like I was like fighting uphill, running uphill, and I was in a very like crowded, saturated place. But the TikTok like organic growth was very new. Not many people were doing it, and also if you're on TikTok, it's very likely that you're interested in it, and that's where Brands Meet Creators was born. I mean, prior to that, the company didn't even have a name. It was just me doing freelance stuff. But then I was like, all right, well, let's actually get a logo, let's get a website, let's put a name to this whole thing, and yeah, that was the birth of Brands Meet Creators. Funny enough, it was actually my little sister who helped me come up with the name. So she visited me down in Mexico. She had, like it might have been her spring break or something. So she came down and she did like an internship with me. And one of her tasks, I was like, we got to figure out a name for a company. So had like 50 on like a Google sheet, and then we kind of decided together, okay, Brands Meet Creators. That's going to be the name.
That's awesome. Um, your, si- how old is your little sister?
Uh, she is right now 23. So at the time, she would have been maybe a freshman in college, something along those lines.
That's cool. That's awesome. But you make it sound so easy. Like, oh, just TikTok came around. People started asking me about TikTok. How did you learn TikTok? I mean, that's like a lot of people
Oh,
like. I love TikTok, but I have no clue how the TikTok even works, including myself.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it came out of necessity. It was one of those like back against the wall, like I got no money coming in and I have only, X amount of savings here. We got to figure this out. So it's like I need to find a way to get clients, and so it's like cool. We're just gonna start posting about it. So just posting videos on YouTube or on Facebook ad tutorials, things like that. And it's just you learn by just trying and seeing what works and what doesn't, and you're forced to do it because your back's against the wall. Um, so that's where it started, and then it ultimately came down to again like I got to figure out a way to feed myself here and bring money in. So if someone's gonna shoot me a DM and ask me about like, hey, could you help me do TikTok for my company? Like they could ask me anything, and like the answer was going to be yes. And it just so happened that I was getting more questions about doing that, and so it led me down that path of like, okay, cool. I'm doing like freelance marketing stuff, and it was just less and less was Facebook ads and YouTube ads, and more started to be TikTok. And I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, well, the opportunity is it's on this side. This is kind of the newer thing. I'm starting to get more and more questions about this. You kind of just feel the traction happening.
So you had this personal brand that you were building, and you used that personal brand to start attracting brands. And then after the brand said, yes, I'm interested in working with you, help me sell this on TikTok. Then you would just literally create a video of yourself saying, if you're interested in selling this, we're looking for this type of individual, reach out.
Yes.
That's how it happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was cool because those videos did so well. Those were my best performing type of videos. Because think about it, if you're a content creator and I'm making a video that's like, yo, I got a $3,000 a month deal, and it's for, you got to sell this like athletic wear. Oh my God, people are going crazy for those. And then all of a sudden I became kind of the guy that had like the deal flow. So I'll take you through the next like iteration of this business, but similar to early on where less people were reaching out to be about meta ads and more people were reaching out to be about TikTok, it got to a point where now I would say between 90 to 95% of like my DMs and my comments, they weren't actually like the ecom brands. They were the content creators that were like, dude, my dream is to be a full-time content creator. I make really good content. I need to figure out a way to partner with brands. I need a way to make money from this. Can you hook me up with one of these brands? And I would get that DM 10 times a day, like just left and right. Maybe not 10, but I was getting those all over. That was the majority of like people reaching out to me. And at the time, I was very much so like, hey man, like sorry, like I got nothing for you right now. Like I'll try my best. But it was one of those where I was like almost like annoyed by it, where like I want like these brands reaching out to me because they're the ones that pay me. Other people, it's like whatever, cool, I'll help you when I can. But I took that same thought process, that same feedback, and I was like, I got to take what the market's given me here. Like clearly, it's these content creators that are the ones that like they need help. They're the ones that want to work with me here. Um, And so I started a newsletter where it was like just to kind of like get them like out of my DMs almost because I didn't really know how to respond. I was like, put your email in here. This is kind of like the wait list. Whenever I get a brand, I'll send it on the email list. So I started growing an email list of content creators. And what I would do is like every time we got a new brand, I would send it on there, and it would be just like a application. So this it was essentially just like it was like an email like job board almost, right? Every time we had like a content creator job, we would send it on that newsletter. And then I don't know what it was, but one day it just like idea popped into my head. I'm like, well, I get all these content creators that reach out to me, and they're all like, how do I work with brands? How can I do this, right? I want to figure out how to make 5 grand a month as a content creator. And so I sent an email out to the newsletter. It was like a half baked thought, but I was like, if I did something where I showed you guys exactly like what these brands want, how to run these like brands pages organically, how to go find these brands and like do outreach to them, because that was another thing I was doing, not just making like content and attracting brands, but I was like sending Instagram DMs and everything. If I showed you guys how to outreach the brands, I gave you guys like my contract templates. Like, is that something that would be valuable if I showed you guys how to do that? And I sent that email out to the email list. Email list was super small at the time, and maybe I don't know, thousand, maybe a couple thousand creators on it. And I didn't even have like a landing page or anything. It was just like send me a DM if like do you think this would be interesting. Um, and I got 300 DMs from that email saying, yes, I want to do this. Like, give me this. And I was like, oh shit, like this, I got something here. This is the thing. And then so 6 hours, I kind of just loosely outlined like, okay, here's what we'll do. Maybe it's like a 8 week cohort. I'll teach you all these things step by step, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to take 20 people max, and it's going to be $2,000 each. And I just generated a Stripe link. Didn't no landing page, no VSL, no nothing. It was just literally I'm replying, copy and paste in my DMs with like, here's what the program is. I'm taking 20 people, first come, first serve. Here's the Stripe link. And yeah, I made like 30, 40 grand like that, which was way more than I was making doing the freelancing and the agency stuff. And I was like, oh my God, well, my business just changed overnight. This is a completely different model.
Wow. Okay, so you are now teaching these creators on how to attract these brands.
Exactly. I was basically showing them like, here's how I've set these partnerships up before. Here's what the brands want. Here's like what's working for these brands. Here's how to structure it. Here's how to go find them. Here's how to run the pages. Like basically just what I had been doing the past several months, and just showing them like, here's how you do it. Here's how I'm finding these clients. Here's how you work with them. Here's the contracts. Here's how to do the outreach. Here's how to run the strategy. Yeah, and what was pretty nice too is in that first cohort, I got a couple of the creators and there's some really good results. So I got a bunch of like really good case studies. I think there was someone that like one deal she landed from like the system I helped her set up. It was like a $5,000 deal. So like she was super stoked on that. And it was a great like just kind of proof of concept. And so that's where we really went from just being like a Mike is like a freelancer, like kind of doing these partnerships to now, okay, I actually had some money to like build a team, actually like invest in this and like make this something that was a bit more serious, like not just me as like a freelancer. So I ended up hiring some assistants, and now we kind of had this two-sided business where it was like I had the creator coaching program and then I had the agency. And so I started to now develop more and more this like two-sided business where it's like you have the brand side and you have the content creator side.
Wow. It's crazy because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people are like afraid to give their sauce, their sauce of
Hmm.
how do they actually find the brands. And I love Gary Vee's approach about this, how just give everything away for free, and then eventually he's gonna come back to you, however he says it, like it's all about jab, 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 which is give away it for free, and then uh, charge for your best of the best of the best. So this is what you did. Okay, so where is the business now? What type of model is it now? Is it still you have those two avenues where you help the creators and you help the brands, and or which one are you focusing on the most? What is working and what is not working?
Yeah. It's still a similar model.
Okay.
It's kind of a complicated business model, and we always go back and forth like, oh, we got to focus more here, we got to focus more over here. Right now, the vast majority of our revenue comes from working with the brands. Um, so on the creator side, we've kind of cycled through many different models. We had the first one that I mentioned. It was like a $2,000 group coaching program. We played around with different price points. I brought on different coaches to the team. Then we went a different model, which got really popular over the last few years, which was like the monthly school community and like the monthly like community group coaching. We shifted to like a $99 a month school program, school community. Right now, we actually have the community completely for free. So we don't charge anything for community or the coaching. And we're in the process, it should be launched in the next month, of rolling out our app, which will have a free and a paid version. Um, but yeah, for the most part, the vast majority of revenue, it comes from working with the brands. But what's interesting about the model is you need both sides, right? Because essentially what the brands are buying is access to this network. So the creator side is like the supply side of the business.
Wow. And that side you don't charge. Creators can come to you, they can learn from you absolutely for free, join your school community, and then the business makes the money from the actual brands that hire the
Correct.
creators.
Correct.
Interesting. And when did you make that switch?
It's kind of been an ever evolving switch. Again, we changed the price points a bunch, but we made the community free about three months ago.
Wow.
So prior to that, it was $99 a month to join the community. But you didn't need to be in the community to be considered part of our like supply side network. We've really used like our email list as the big asset. So that's been one of the, I would say, best things that I ever did, was start that email newsletter way back in the day, because it's just so powerful to have that distribution where, again, a brand jumps on and they're like, hey, we're looking for creators that make beauty content. Cool, I can send an email out and it goes out to 70,000 plus creators, with great open rates, and we can get a ton of applicants for that, or we can get a ton of people to request a sample, do a certain thing that we need. And that's something that can never really be taken away from you, right? Where I have 100,000+ followers on TikTok right now, but I kind of stopped posting content for a while. And with TikTok, it's like, that doesn't matter if you have those followers. It's like, can you reach those followers, right? Same thing with all these other platforms. You could have a massive following on YouTube, but what if all of a sudden your YouTube videos that you're posting, they just don't get views anymore? They're just not getting shown. You don't actually own that subscriber. With your email list, you own that. So that was one of the best things that we've ever built, was like really focusing on building that email newsletter.
Hmm. Let me take you back a little bit, if you don't mind,
Yep.
to the time when you were working for that Facebook ad agency, and how you were talking about just a minute ago how all of their income was coming, or all, the business was based on running Facebook ads, right? And it was not the best of strategies, and that's probably one of the things that failed. Your whole business, and correct me if I'm wrong, but right now your whole business is on TikTok, right?
So in terms of the like
Creators
partners,
and brands.
yes. So right now
TikTok's
it's
affiliate shop.
yes, TikTok Shop is the core focus, and this is
Got
a
it.
really good point that you're bringing up. So when I started the company, TikTok Shop didn't exist. So TikTok Shop launched late 2023. So we were focused on just like the pure creator brand partnerships. It was called UGC, right? User generated content.
Mm-hmm.
Late 2023, TikTok Shop launched, and basically what happened is our creators, the vast majority of them, they start testing out TikTok Shop, right? It's a new thing. People are, testing stuff out. And what just happens is creators go from making, I don't know, $500 a month, 1,000, $2,000 a month, to like, we had people that were making $100,000 in a single month, just because TikTok Shop was just this insane way for them to monetize, where it's like you get a couple viral videos that get 5, 10, 20 million views, you get a percentage of all the sales, and they're making serious money. And so, when that happens to a couple people in your community, everyone sees that and then everyone wants to do that. And so we had this like flood of like all of our creators wanted to be on TikTok Shop. And then we saw the same thing with brands. All the brands that wanted to work with creators, the TikTok Shop was like the hot thing. Um, and at the time, similar to the whole mindset of like, well, everyone's doing Facebook ads, but like here's this thing that's hot that no one's doing. We're nimble, we can move fast. Did something similar where it's like, okay, we have like the standard like UGC creator partnerships, but there's hundreds of other platforms that do that same thing. TikTok Shop was just created, and like we think we have a setup to be able to like dominate that. Cool, let's go all in with that. So that's when we put like a massive focus on TikTok Shop, and we just decided like, okay, we're gonna go all in. But that was late 2023. Fast forward, and now we are actually at the point where, okay, you know what? I think we need to expand another layer so we don't have that just like, where we're not just siloed into one platform. So we are actively, I'm not gonna say stepping away from TikTok Shop. That'll still be the bread and butter, but like expanding our offering.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask. I mean, wasn't that in 2024, 2025 when they were the whole thing about banning TikTok
Yeah,
when Trump was in office, and then the whole thing. I mean,
that was a,
didn't
that
that
was
scare
that
the
was
shit
a
out of you?
It did. It did. That was a rough couple of months for sure. And that's when we started like making those steps to open up the offering again. But then TikTok got reinstated, and it seemed like okay, there's actually it's solidified. Like right now, TikTok's not going anywhere. But there was a point where it was like okay, maybe it's a little bit spooky. This could get kind of ugly. But yeah, I'm confident it's not going anywhere. But at the same time, we do want to expand and be like multi-platform.
That's awesome. Yeah, because that was the biggest question for me, especially when I speak to entrepreneurs who have one source of, just like you said, Facebook, Google Ads, whatever YouTube ads you're running. Yeah, just be ready. Question for you on your, so before we even started recording, you were talking about how now you're going back to building your personal brand, and it sounds like the whole business started with you actually building your personal brand, and then you said that you put it on pause for some time, and now you're coming back to this whole thing. What made you put it on pause? What happened there? And
Yeah.
can you talk about the importance of building your personal brand to other entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I'll start with why I put it on pause. So I get to this point where I'll call it like maybe a mental blocker, or I get to this point where I think it was in probably 2023. For context on the company size at the time, I think we had just hit our first $100,000 month. We have a handful of employees, and the majority of the revenue is like the creator coaching program. So we have the creator coaching program, and then the agency is like kind of a smaller component. And I get to this point where I wanted to take a level up. I felt like I was an entrepreneur that was like I didn't have like a real business. I felt like the business was like me, like I was the face of the business. And like if I wasn't there, the business collapsed, right? And I had this like aspiration where like I want to be one of these like real business guys that like they can step away from their business, right? That thing just runs without them. They have like a software, a platform, right? I have this like coaching program thing, which is cool. Making bunch of money from it, it's great, but like I want to be like the real deal. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just be a guy. I'm like I got to make videos to get clients. And so I got in this like mental frame where it was like I need to be able to build something that can stand on its own without me. And I think that thought process, that is the right thought process, right? I think as an entrepreneur, you should be trying to build something that like it can live without you, it can run without you. But I think I took it a little bit too extreme, and I think I had a bit too much of like a chip on my shoulder, a bit of like a mental block where like I really wanted to just like completely separate myself from the business. I also kind of got tired too of like having to make content that drives business. When you make three TikToks a day for 2 3 years in a row, you kind of burn out a little bit. So I was burning out a little bit with making content, and I also I wanted to kind of remove myself from the business. And so I went through this phase of like figuring out how to do that. And I think I took it a little bit too far, to the point where I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna like kind of stop making content altogether. I would make some here and there. Um, but yeah, I look back at it and I'm like, well, it was the right thought process to build something where it doesn't need you, but at the same time, like that was one of your biggest strengths, and like it brought so much value to the company by you making content for it, and you kind of just stopped doing that, just to almost like prove to yourself that you could do it. So yeah, I basically went through this phase of two plus years of like not really doing anything with my personal brand. Maybe I'd make a video here and there. Um, but over the last month or so, I've just realized like, yeah, maybe that was like kind of a silly decision. And that just the personal brand right now is so, so, so incredibly important. And yeah, now I'm back to, one piece of content every day. I just started jumping back into that. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently than I did previously. Um, but yeah, I see it's so important in today's age. And even after only jumping back in for a few weeks of posting, I'm already getting the inbound messages like I used to, that are just starting to point me in different directions where like, okay, now I can kind of see where opportunity is. I see what people are asking now, what I can help people out with. But it's such a massive thing to have today.
Especially since I'm glad that you mentioned this, because a lot of people want to separate themselves from their brand and from their business. And the thought process is just like you said, because I want to sell my business one day, I don't want to be part of, but at the end of the day, you are, you are who you are, and you are your business. And you did mention in your bio that you're working on not only the app, but also an AI tool. Can you talk a little bit about what that AI tool, and would you be talking about that more in your content coming up?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of content around AI systems. So I mean, we have a handful of AI tools that we have now. The first one that I created, first of all, I have like kind of like an engineering brain, right? Like a data science team, math major. So I nerd out about like being able to build things. Um, so a little over a year ago, we built what we call like our viral script writer. Essentially, it's just a custom GPT that's trained on the top, several hundred TikTok Shop video frameworks. And so now creators can just go into that custom GPT and say, "Hey, write me a video for this product," and it'll be able to brainstorm with them, right? It's having an AI that's trained on the proper data set. So we launched that a year, maybe a year and a half ago. That did awesome, and that just kind of got me, doing a little bit more and more with AI. Recently, we launched something similar, but for brands, where basically a brand will come to us and they'll say, "Hey, here's our brand, here's what we do, here's the product, and we want to know like what should we be posting on TikTok." And essentially, what we do is we're constantly scraping the top performing TikTok videos, and we're running them through a handful of pretty like in-depth analyses, right? So we're doing the visual analysis, running it through Google's Gemini, so it knows exactly like what is visually happening in this video. What does the person look like? What are they doing? What are the movements? And then we're taking the transcript. We're running it through like framework analysis. Like, how is this video laid out? What is the hook they're using? Are they doing like a problem solution framework? Is it a skit? And we're collecting like tons of data points on these videos. And we also get the revenue data from TikTok. So we know like, okay, here's how much this video sold, storing all of that in a database. And so now when a brand comes to us and they're like, "Hey, we have this like magnesium supplement. We want to know what we should be posting." We now generate them on a weekly basis. Like, "Hey, here's a creative brief that you can give to your creators. Here are all the videos that are trending in the supplement category or the magnesium category, or trending for helping people with sleep." And then we basically customize those for the brand. And so now it's just a way for them to get research on like an ongoing basis, and just completely automated. That's brand new. Like just beta launched that last week, but got some incredible response back from that. And so we're constantly tweaking. And that's where I spend a lot of my time now is like building net new things for the company. You know, I'm in Claude Code probably 60 to 70% of the day right now. And that's kind of been the main like value driver that I've been bringing to the company is like, okay, how can I build these new tools, new things for the business, and super grateful for the rest of the team I have that can kind of help with like the day-to-day operations and just keeping the ship running while building these new components.
That's really cool. And you're kind of lucky that you have that mathematician brain, that engineering brain. Not most, but a lot of entrepreneurs don't. A lot of entrepreneurs are the visionaries. They get excited. They have the idea, and this whole AI space right now is very, very exciting, very overwhelming, to be honest. At the same time, how, what advice would you give? Like being 60 to 70% of your time being in Cloud Code, what are some tips on getting past the fear of getting into AI? What would some of maybe some resources that you can share that entrepreneurs can use on how to learn Cloud Code? Is it just YouTube University, or is it just kind of putting up your sleeves and diving into it and just like you said
Yeah.
before, just learning as you go?
It's both. Those are actually the two like best ways that I've learned so far. One is just in my free time, I'm watching YouTube videos on Claude Code. Like I love to walk. You know, I'll probably walk between 90 minutes to 2 hours every single day. Typically, I'm listening to some type of like YouTube video training, or sometimes I'm just walking and thinking. But a lot of it's just like researching and just keeping my finger on the pulse of like what is happening in space. Anthropic is shipping new things every single day, it seems like. So that's one side, and then the other side is, which is arguably even more important, is just starting. Like you got to start at zero, and if it's something that you want to do, just go for it. Just hop in there. You'll use Claude or ChatGPT like a complete beginner, but that's fine. But then you slowly learn. Oh, wait a minute. Like, what is like a Claude project? You know, that's kind of like one of the first steps, or like a custom GPT. Oh, cool. That's something that we can use as like a company. Um, it's like a super basic, and then you'll learn things like the connectors, right? So I just made a video about this recently that resonated with a lot of people. As I said, it was like the probably the highest leverage thing you can do in AI right now, in terms of setup. You know, the biggest bang for your buck, in terms of this will only take you 10 minutes, but it's going to give you so much leverage. And that is just using Claude connectors, connecting Claude with things like Slack, with your Gmail. But I think the most importantly, connecting it with whatever you use to record calls in your company. So now you as a founder, connected to your Claude, you have access to every sales call that's happened. You have access to all of your client success calls. You have access to all of your internal meetings. So now you go in there and you say, hey, like, what's been happening with the sales calls this past month? And it's like, well, everyone keeps bringing up like competitor XYZ and how like their pricing is like this. You're like, okay, cool. That's like feedback I didn't know. Or you go and you ask, hey, like our churn is pretty bad. Like, what can we do to fix churn? It says, okay, let me analyze the last 100 fulfillment calls that you guys had. Okay, it seems like everyone's canceling for these 5 reasons. Here's what we think you can build based off of that. So it's a process of just like, step by step. You slowly learn more and more. You slowly learn like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And it takes time, and it just takes you playing around and wanting to learn.
That's awesome. Well, the name of the podcast is Still Building. So, Mike, I mean, this is an interesting story that you just shared, and love that you're working on the AI. But what's the next 12 months of Mike Rama look like? What are you still building?
Wow. Um, it's an amazing question. And I right now feel the most passionate and like alive about the business that I have in the past like 2 years. And I think it's because I've put myself in this position where I am doing the things that I like to do, right? I'm a builder at heart. Like my favorite type of day is when I don't have any calls. I have a blank calendar and it's 8 hours where I just get to nerd out and go make something. And I've been able to kind of build a team around me where like I can actually make that happen. So I kind of see myself continuing to lean into that over the next year. We are leaning super hard into AI right now. And what I'm really focused on is I don't see many people doing this. A lot of the, AI tutorials and what you watch out there is like basically building AI systems for almost like single player mode. It's all like, hey, here's how to be a solo founder where you can like replace your whole team. Where what I am focused on building right now is like, how can I build like this AI system for the company that is multiplayer mode, right? Where actually it can enable everyone on my team. And so like we're all on the same page. That's a huge focus for me the next 3 to 6 months.
That's a cool way of looking at it. Love it. Mike, I'm going to ask you 5 rapid fire questions that you've not heard yet before. So, listeners, this is going to be as real as it gets. So, just don't think about these too much. I ask these questions in every single interview. And here we go. The first one is best financial decision you've ever made.
Buying Bitcoin.
Worst business advice you've ever followed.
More of a general response, but listening to people who haven't accomplished the things that you want to accomplish or haven't done the things that you want to do.
We do a lot of that. One thing entrepreneurs should stop doing immediately.
Continuing to do things that they don't enjoy doing and not delegating.
We can spend a whole episode talking about that shit, man. I love that answer. Question number 4: the app, tool, or resources, or a resource that has the biggest that had the let me re-ask that. The app, tool, or resource that had the biggest impact on how you run your business today.
Claude Code.
Claude Code. One book, podcast, or person that shaped how you think about building your business that most people probably have not heard of.
I'm actually gonna give a book recommendation that you gave me that was super impactful, which was the Surrender Experiment.
I love it. I agree 100%. It completely flipped my mind. Mike, thank you so much for being here, man. This was awesome. Hearing
Thank
your
you.
story, completely different approach, completely different perspective on building something that, I mean, TikTok Shop affiliates. Mike, where can people find you if they want to connect? Obviously, TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. Look me up on LinkedIn, Mike Rama. I'm gonna focus on Instagram a lot this year as well. It's Mike_Rama7, kind of a pretty terrible Instagram handle. But typically, if you just search Mike Rama TikTok, I'll appear wherever. And check out brandsmeetcreators.com.
brandsmeetcreators.com. You actually have a pretty badass YouTube channel as well. I think it's like 4,500 subscribers, so I love it. Mike, thanks so much for being here, man. This was an awesome conversation. Let's continue building. See you.
Appreciate it. Bye.